The Hotel America stood tall against the Chicago skyline, its Art Deco architecture, a relic from the 1920s, that had somehow survived the constant modernization of the city. I never planned to stay there, but after my flight was canceled, due to an unexpected snowstorm, I found myself dragging my suitcase through its grand revolving doors at nearly midnight. The lobby was cavernous, with marble floors that echoed under my tired footsteps, crystal chandeliers hanging from intricately painted ceilings, and dark wood paneling that seemed to absorb what little light existed. Despite the hotel's obvious attempts at maintaining its former glory, there was something undeniably worn about the place, like makeup applied too heavily over aging skin. The front desk clerk, an older gentleman with perfectly combed silver hair and unnaturally precise posture, barely looked up as I approached, his fingers tapping methodically on an outdated computer keyboard. "Welcome to Hotel America. How may I assist you this evening?" he asked, his voice strangely monotonous yet somehow too perfect, as if each word had been rehearsed countless times. I explained my situation, and he nodded with mechanical sympathy, before offering me a room on the 13th floor. When I hesitated, a thin smile stretched across his face. "We call it the 14th floor, of course. But you strike me as someone who appreciates authenticity," he said, sliding a heavy brass key across the counter. Not the modern key card I'd expected. The number 1313 was etched into its handle, the digits worn smooth from years of use. Before I could respond, he added, "The elevator is to your right, though it sometimes has a mind of its own, especially after midnight, so perhaps the stairs might be more reliable." His gaze lingered on me for a moment too long before he turned his attention back to his computer, clearly dismissing me. The hallway leading to my room was dimly lit with wall sconces that flickered occasionally, casting strange, elongated shadows that seemed to move independently of any physical objects. The carpet beneath my feet was plush, but unmistakably dated, its once vibrant pattern now faded into muted burgundy and gold. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that the corridor was somehow longer than it should have been, stretching unnaturally before me. The air felt heavy and still, with a faint scent I couldn't quite identify, something like old perfume mixed with the metallic temps of copper. Every few doors, I passed ornate tables displaying wilting flower arrangements in tarnished silver, vases, their petals curling and darkened, as if they'd been there for weeks. The hotel was quiet, too quiet for a place supposedly housing other stranded travelers, with only the occasional creak of the building settling, though sometimes those sounds seemed to come from inside the walls themselves. When I finally reached room 1313, the brass numbers hung slightly askew on the door, the bottom of the second 3 loose and tilted downward, as if it were melting. The key turned smoothly in the lock, but the door itself needed a firm push, groaning on its hinges as it opened to reveal a space that seemed frozen in time. The room was spacious, but claustrophobic, dominated by a 4-poster bed with dark mahogany columns and deep crimson curtains tied back with frayed gold cords. A dresser with an ornate mirror stood against one wall, reflecting the room at a subtly wrong angle that made my stomach lurch when I noticed it. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, revealing glimpses of black and white tile and antique fixtures. A desk sat under the window, which was covered by heavy damask curtains that barely moved when I tried to open them, revealing a view of nothing but impenetrable darkness, as if the glass opened onto a void rather than the Chicago night skyline I had expected. As exhaustion washed over me, I decided to leave unpacking for the morning and quickly prepared for bed, pointedly ignoring the way the room seemed to absorb all sound, except for an almost imperceptible whisper that might have been coming from the heating vents. I set up my phone on the nightstand to record a quick TikTok about my unexpected luxury accommodations. Something light and humorous about the old world charm and my lucky upgrade, completely unaware that this casual action would be the beginning of a nightmare that would soon have millions of viewers questioning what was real and what was fabrication. My TikTok post about the Hotel America had gone unexpectedly viral overnight, with thousands of comments flooding in while I slept. Most were warnings, urgent messages, telling me to leave immediately, mixed with accusations that I was staging an elaborate hoax. My phone pinged with notifications. Livestream viewers were commenting in real time, some claiming they could see figures moving in the darkness behind me, others insisting they could hear whispers that weren't picking up on my end of the recording. One comment in particular stood out, from a username I didn't recognize, but which contained my mother's maiden name. They don't know they're dead until someone sees them. Turn around slowly. The overwhelming terror that had been building finally crested, and I spun around, my phone capturing for a split second what appeared to be dozens of translucent figures filling the hallway. Their faces contorted in silent screams, all reaching toward me with desperate, grasping hands before the screen went black, the live stream cutting off abruptly as my phone died once more. When my phone eventually powered back on, hours had seemingly passed, though the quality of light in the derelict room hadn't changed. Dozens of missed calls and thousands of comments had accumulated, many from concerned viewers who had contacted local authorities after witnessing my live stream abruptly end. I tried calling emergency services myself, but each time I dialed, the call connected to what sounded like an old-fashioned operator who kept insisting I was calling from within the Hotel America in 1947, not 2025. With growing desperation, I decided to find my own way out, navigating through corridors that seemed to reconfigure themselves when I wasn't looking directly at them. The stairwell door, when I finally located it, opened not onto stairs, but into what appeared to be a vast ballroom from another era, filled with elegantly dressed guests dancing to music I could hear only faintly, as if through layers of time. None of them acknowledged my presence, except for one small girl in a velvet dress who stood motionless amid the dancers, her eyes following me as I skirted the edge of the room, seeking another exit. "They check in, but they don't check out," she said when I passed her, her voice unnaturally adult and her smile revealing too many teeth. Not really. Parts of them stay forever. As I fled from the ballroom, I found myself in a service corridor, lined with photographs chronicling the hotel's history. Moving closer to examine them, my blood turned to ice as I recognized myself in several images spanning different decades, standing in the lobby in 1950s attire, dining in the restaurant in 1970s fashion, always slightly out of focus, compared to the other subjects, always with the same expression of confused terror. The most disturbing photograph, dated 1927, showed the hotel's grand opening ceremony, with the original owner standing proudly before the ribbon, a man whose face was identical to the night clerk who had checked me in. As I stared transfixed at this impossible gallery, my phone began receiving text messages from unknown numbers, each containing fragments of stories about guests who had disappeared within the hotel over its long history. One message contained a link to a newspaper article about a particularly notorious incident in room 1313, where a guest had reportedly gone insane, claiming the room existed in multiple time periods simultaneously and was a gateway for entities that fed on human fear. The article included a blurry photograph of that guest being taken away by authorities, a photograph that, despite the vintage quality and decades-old time swamp, showed someone wearing my distinctive jacket and carrying what looked unmistakably like my phone. The hotel's reality seemed to be breaking down around me, walls occasionally becoming transparent to reveal other versions of the same space, existing simultaneously, occupied by people from different eras who remained oblivious to my presence and to each other. I encountered hotel staff members who would flicker between appearing normal and revealing horrifically mutilated forms, their injuries suggesting violent deaths that hotel records had apparently covered up. One maid, whose ghostly form showed a crushed skull, cornered me near a linen closet, and whispered that the hotel itself was a living entity that had been deliberately built on a convergence of temporal fault lines, designed to harvest human experiences across multiple realities. The architect wasn't human, she hissed, her breath smelling of grave soil. He created a structure that exists partially outside normal space-time, feeding the entities he served with the emotional energy of guests, who become trapped in its loops. She pressed a master key into my palm, her touch burning cold against my skin. It only works if you truly understand what the hotel is. Most never do. Before I could question her further, she dissipated into mist that was sucked into a ventilation grate, the metal slats of which momentarily resembled teeth, before returning to normal, armed with both new knowledge and the mysterious key. I navigated the hotel's increasingly unstable reality, documenting everything on my phone despite the device's erratic behavior, sometimes showing corrupted footage that revealed entities lurking just beyond normal perception, other times capturing crystal clear evidence of the hotel's impossible architecture. My TikTok livestream had become a phenomenon, with hundreds of thousands of viewers watching my ordeal in real time, many working collaboratively to research the hotel's history and provide guidance through comment sections. Some viewers recognized specific ghosts from historical records, while others identified symbols embedded in the hotel's decorative elements as belonging to ancient cults, dedicated to entities that existed between dimensions. The collective intelligence of the audience became my greatest resource as they translated inscriptions I encountered, identified historical figures whose ghosts approached me, and pieced together the hotel's true purpose from fragments of information scattered across different time periods. Most crucially, several viewers who claimed to be descendants of the original architect sent me diagrams showing hidden passages designed as escape routes for those who became aware of the hotel's true nature. As I followed their directions toward what they believed was a way out, the hotel's resistance to my escape attempt grew more aggressive. Pipes burst, spraying scalding water to block pathways. Light fixtures exploded, sending shards of glass flying toward me. And most terrifying of all, the ghosts of previous trapped guests formed menacing groups at intersections, their spectral forms becoming more solid and threatening as my understanding of the hotel increased. Following the guidance of my online viewers, I made my way to the hotel's boiler room, a cavernous space filled with machinery from multiple eras operating simultaneously. Modern digital systems alongside steam equipment from the early 20th century, all somehow functioning together in impossible harmony. At the center stood an apparatus that resembled neither boiler nor generator, but something more akin to an altar, with pipes and conduits radiating outward like arteries, pulsing with an iridescent fluid that seemed to be flowing in multiple directions at once. The night clerk stood before it, no longer maintaining his human disguise, his form now fluid and geometric in ways that strained my perception, angles that shouldn't exist folding in on themselves. "You've seen too much," he said, his voice resonating from multiple points around the room. "But that makes you a perfect conduit. Those who understand become the strongest anchors for the hotel's hunger." He gestured toward several pillar-like structures surrounding the central altar, within which I could make out human figures suspended in transparent amber-like substance, their expressions frozen in moments of perfect terror or ecstasy. They maintain the connections between realities. Their consciousness stretched across decades, experiencing every possible version of their stay simultaneously, forever. With trembling hands, I retrieved the master key the ghostly maid had given me, which had grown increasingly hot in my pocket, now glowing with faint symbols that matched those on the central apparatus. The TikTok livestream continued to run, my phone battery seemingly sustained by the same energies that powered the hotel, allowing thousands of viewers to witness what happened next. Following instructions frantically typed by a viewer claiming to be a physicist specializing in theoretical multidimensional spaces. I approached the central altar from a specific angle, one that the physicist claimed represented a null space in the hotel's dimensional manipulation. The clerk's form distorted further as he lunged toward me, his movements leaving tracer-like afterimages across my vision. But he seemed unable to directly enter the narrow path I was following. When I reached the altar, I inserted the key into a receptacle that hadn't been visible until the key was centimeters away from it. The entire structure shuddered, and the clerk's inhuman scream reverberated through the hotel's foundations, the sound containing frequencies that made my vision blur and my nose bleed. "You're collapsing decades of work," he howled, his form expanding and contracting rapidly. "Do you have any idea how many realities intersect here? How many versions of yourself are currently within these walls, in different times, different possibilities?" As the key turned in the lock, reality itself seemed to fracture around me, showing brief glimpses of the hotel throughout its history, its construction, its heyday, its decline, and its eventual abandonment, alongside versions that had never existed in my timeline. The hotel as a military hospital, as a government research facility, as a smoldering ruin. The clerk's form destabilized further as the machinery began to fail, the amber substance containing the trapped guests crystallizing and then shattering, releasing dozens of souls that swirled around the chamber like a storm of light. "You've doomed yourself as well," the clerk snarled as his form began to collapse inward. "Every version of you, in every version of this hotel, will cease to exist when the anchors fail. You'll never have checked in. You'll never have existed here at all." With a sound like reality tearing along a seam, the central apparatus imploded, creating a vacuum that pulled everything toward it. Equipment, debris, the clerk's dissolving form, and the swirling souls of the released captives. I braced myself against a pipe, holding my phone outward to continue broadcasting as the hotel began to fold in on itself. Walls and floors merging and dissolving, time periods collapsing into one another. Just before the phone was torn from my grip, flying into the vortex that had replaced the altar, I saw the comments section explode with messages from viewers claiming that the Hotel America was transforming on their screens, its online presence and history changing in real time. Hundreds of previously missing persons suddenly appearing in public records as having been found alive. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on a snowy Chicago street corner, my suitcase beside me, no hotel in sight. In its place stood a small park with a memorial plaque commemorating the victims of a fire that had destroyed the historic Hotel America in 1979, noting that the site had remained undeveloped due to persistent structural problems with the ground. My phone had a full battery, but contained no videos or photos from inside the hotel. No record of my viral TikTok saga that had captivated hundreds of thousands of viewers. However, I had dozens of messages and missed calls from people I'd never heard of, all expressing relief that I was safe and asking detailed questions about my experience in the hotel. People who, according to their profiles, were experts in paranormal phenomena, quantum physics, and architectural history. Most disturbing of all was an email from a stranger containing a group photograph dated 1956, showing hotel staff standing before the Hotel America's grand entrance, with the night clerk front and center, his appearance unchanged despite the decades that should have passed. Pinned to his lapel was a name tag reading management, and in his hand he held what appeared to be my room key, the numbers 1313 clearly visible on its brass tag. The email contained only one line of text: "He's rebuilding it elsewhere. Time is irrelevant to his kind. The hotel will find worthy guests again." That night, as I checked into a modern chain hotel on the opposite side of Chicago, I received a notification that I'd been tagged in a new TikTok video posted by an account called Hotel_America_official. The video showed only an elegant Art Deco lobby, empty of guests, with a silver-haired clerk standing behind the front desk, smiling directly into the camera. The caption read, "Thank you for your stay. Your room will always be waiting for your return across all possible tomorrows." According to the comments section, I was the only one who could see the post.